Kia ora, this program is brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Wellington Access Radio, make your voice heard.
Wagwan, whoa, help it there. Welcome to the Blackhouse, 106.1 FM. I'm Eddie, and who have we got in the studio today? We've got Leah, we've got Nanny, and we've got Fellis MaGuire, our special guest here today. How's everyone doing?
Go on. Yeah.
Everything good?
Everything good?
Everything is nice.
How's everybody? Everybody well? Yes. Everybody black? Everybody beautiful?
What's everyone up to? What's this fine weekend been like so far?
Blood moon.
Ooh.
Yes.
That was that was actually wild. Like it was freezing, but like to go out and watch. But that was mean. That was like
full moon drumming, blood moon. Welcome in. New energy. We have the moon, and I think it was Mercury bringing in some new energy to this 2021, which is very welcome.
Do you know when's the next one? Blood moon. Or it wasn't just a blood moon. It was like a super blood moon.
Yes.
It was like so that was like
not in our lifetime will we see. Well, if you're in New Zealand, you won't see it. They happen quite often, but just in different parts of the world.
Well, yeah, it is weird, like looking at like the eclipse, going over like all the eclipse like stuff, and it's just like always like what is that? Oh, it's going to appear in X countries. And just like then it's never like.
Yeah. Every time I look up for that red moon, I miss it.
Yes.
All I see is the white side, and then they go, "Oh yeah, there was a red moon, and it happened."
Yes.
Like they've got a specific time when it happens, right?
It's true.
So you're looking. I'm like,
I'm not gonna lie. I got to see 50% of a blood moon being covered in shadow, and then I was exhausted and I went to fuck sleep.
That's grown folks maneuvers, right?
Yeah, but I was like, this is a sacred moment, and hopefully it blesses me in my unconscious because I'm tired and I'm going to sleep.
My daughter started her first menses.
oh,
Yeah, so and it was
On the blood moon?
Yes.
Oh,
And
girl!
It was
Cheers.
like it was like, Dad, I have a period, and I was like, Kyoko. This is you, babe.
That's
Not your
really ready for that.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
No, it was good. It was
Sounds like me and your daughter are synced up. I started at the same time.
So my thing is just, I was like, I wanted to give her a hug,
Yeah,
know that, it's all good. She's all good.
She's not, it's no possession. It's the blood moon. The blood moon spirit did not come through her.
No, we've been preparing. I've been telling her something's going to happen. When you go through this thing, I'm not going to be buying you plastic stuff anymore. I'm going to help you to make money yourself and do things for yourself.
Yes.
So, and here we are.
So today's episode is brought to you by Menzies. Blood moon represent.
So obviously, so we got Fellis in the studio today. See, I feel like Leah, you met Fellis before, haven't you?
yeah. I've known. How long have I known you now?
About 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that what I do know is that you drum, that you live by the beach, and after you said you live by the beach, that's all I needed to know. I kind of like everything else was like he lives by the beach. That's all I need to know.
Give us like a slightly more detailed rundown there.
Like I lived in New Zealand. I came to New Zealand with my daughter's mom, who's from New Zealand, and it was great. We lived on the north shore of Auckland, and I was, I guess
Ooh, fancy town.
Shore boy. And then when we broke up, I was sitting on my deck, and I just had this moment like, I could be anywhere. Like I could be in Cali, I could be wherever. And I was like, nah, if I'm gonna be in New Zealand, I need to be in New Zealand. And then I moved to Piha.
Yeah.
Oh, yo.
So it was like,
That's real.
I was on the beach in Piha for a minute, and people would come through for drumming ceremonies and stuff like that because I got into drumming via ritual. So
Nice.
I grew up Southern Baptist.
Oh, yo.
So don't tell me about my Bible. I was one of them type of dudes, and man, I went to university, and these dudes from the Nation of Islam came through, and the nation has this way of destroying Christianity. It is like antibiotic to Christianity. There's no way that you can spend more than 30 minutes to an hour with someone from the nation, or Black Hebrew Israelites, or anything else that's out to get you and get that religion and not have any questions. And so that started my journey. I went from there to...
So are you saying you were a Nation of Islam once upon a time?
Yeah. I was,
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
was an assistant minister in the Nation.
Oh,
of
you're a
Islam.
minister?
Yes.
Which, okay, so they've got different churches, like they number them, don't they?
Well, they have numbers, but it's Muhammad's mosques. So you'll have Muhammad's mosque in Louisville or whatever. I was assistant minister in Louisville Mosque, a lieutenant for the I was a lieutenant in Louisville Mosque, but assistant minister on the university campus.
Okay, I've got a question that isn't even in that, simply because
go for
you've brought up Nation of Islam. Why does the Nation of Islam use their titles and they sound like they're military as opposed to titles that are traditionally religious titles like pastor or deacon, or do they use those titles as well?
No.
So
They have
what-
minister, but other than that, it's lieutenants, captains, and all that other
So
stuff.
what is the military sort of lean about? What's that all about?
Well, it's about discipline.
Okay.
You know? I think there's a lot of people say a lot of bad things about the nation, and I don't have a lot of good things to say about the nation. However, I will say one of the best things that it gives Black people in the States that have suffered from a particular kind of racism is that it injects you with the idea that the person who is afflicting you is the devil, right? So it's like a well, we've been talking about it a lot lately. It's like a vaccination. So it gives you a weakened form of the disease in order to cure you of the disease. So there's a lot of, like, I grew up in Kentucky. I didn't look white people in the face. You know what I mean?
No, I do actually.
There was 10 years old when they finally took the billboard down 10 miles outside of my house that said, "Nigga, don't let the sun set on you here."
Yeah.
Jeez.
You know, we're talking 82.
Yeah.
You know, we ain't
Yeah.
talking like 62, 52. We're talking 82.
Yeah.
So Kentucky didn't have to give up my great-grandmother was a slave. They didn't have to give up their slaves because the Emancipation Proclamation only applied to the states that seceded from the Union.
Right.
So all the states that didn't, the Commonwealths and all that sort of stuff that stayed in the Union, didn't have to give up their slaves.
Okay. So that continued on for quite some time.
Continued on.
Well, that was
continued.
the thing I did read. I read an article that was talking about like how, like, yeah, in terms of segregation in a way, it's like the South, in many ways, was forced, and a lot of the secessionist states were essentially forced legally to kind of start that process, and at various points in history to kind of, I guess, start in that process of integration and stuff. Whereas further north and to the non-secessionist kind of states, like the thing is that it wasn't, because it wasn't necessarily legally written, there wasn't the same level of like requirement to overturn those sort of
Basically,
systems.
some of the states resisted with all their might to give up their Black people, and they're almost right because we dope as fuck. But give it up, give us back to ourselves.
Well, there's, it's a peculiar institution that is the South. It's a peculiar institution, so, and the very interesting thing is that the Southern states actually convinced the rest of the country that it's all right, and until they actually got to see some of the brutality of it, or the remnants of the brutality of it in the 60s, did people actually go, wait a minute, and this is just the remnants of it. They didn't actually get to see it in full bloom, in full manifestation. So that was a really good thing for me, because I grew up believing that Black people contributed nothing to the world, nothing, and I was told that,
Yes.
and I was glad that I was born in America, because otherwise I'd be born in Africa and I'd be fucking monkey. Excuse me if I can say that.
No.
I'd be, having sex with monkeys and
That's
doing
what
this,
you
that,
were.
and the
That's
other,
what you were taught. That's what you were
I was
taught. Yeah.
That's what I was taught.
Yeah.
Not just by white people, but by Black people.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, so if I correct me if I'm wrong, you're from the States, and you were born in Kentucky.
That's right.
There we go. And you are a man of faith, or were
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We still
All right,
we only
we're
halfway
working
in the
our way,
journey.
working
We're
our
only
way.
halfway in the journey.
There we go.
Yes, I am a man of faith.
Yes, so there we go. I'm catching up.
Yeah.
I similar journey, but starting in Hawaii. And a couple years younger than you. So I'm catching up. This is all very interesting. Last night I watched the Netflix series High on the Hog. If you heard of it.
No, I haven't.
It is a history of Black people through slavery, through food. So it starts in Benin, Africa, and it travels through there and sort of asks, what were we eating when we started, and what were we eating when we were done? And it takes you through like the history of slavery through the medium of food. So I'm pinning all these things in context to specifically that, and I'm like, this is interesting. Kentucky, you say, fried chicken, you say.
Yeah, well, that's the funny joke in my family is because we grew up maybe 12 minutes drive from the very first Kentucky Fried Chicken. It's called Claudia Sanders. So
was it named after his wife?
it was named after his wife.
Okay.
Of course, it's a slave recipe. It was
that's
good. Yes, of course.
cooking. It was a slave recipe.
Yeah.
And we would always go, I want to get the KFC, I want to get KFC. My aunties and all of them would be like, shh, I make better than KFC.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know how we do. We're not stopping at no KFC, boy. You kidding?
Are you kidding me?
And, when I was younger, I was like, whatever. But now I'm thinking back like, man, that chicken was good.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. Yeah, no, I was just learning exactly that, and I'm quite excited about to have a Black American here. I'm about to rend this away from God and talk about some food.
Yeah, I see.
It was like 2 years ago. I did a semester on exchange in North Carolina, and that was one of the things that I've missed so much. Is just like, and I've just been able to track down. It's just soul food. I'm just disappointed. I'm just like, there's so much like food that I'm just like, I'm just not going to be able to get that until I go back or something.
I'd like to know more about what you were saying before, the Nation of Islam, and where that conversation was going just a minute ago.
Yeah, it's all right. So, we're talking about vaccinations. We're talking about actually curing people of something. When I first got in contact with the Nation of Islam, I went to my best friend, who was a white dude at the time. We grew up together. We fought together. We did everything together. And I said, look, I'm joining the Nation of Islam. And I'm not doing it because I hate white people. I just want you to know that. I'm doing it because I'm learning about my people, and I've never done that. There's never been anything that's allowed me that vehicle to be able to be happy that I am Black. At 16 years old, I looked in the mirror. I wanted to be like a bright boy, exceptional type dude, and I never wanted to be a nigga. I never wanted to be any of those things. And so I had to, at 16 years old, look myself in the mirror and go, I am Black.
Yes.
And everything that comes with that.
So what age were you when that sort of realization happened?
That I was Black.
Yeah,
Yes.
16.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of late.
I was 22, so
Really? You understand? So
I
there's
would've been like
vehicles.
16,
There's vehicles in the States.
Yeah.
So this is where you see it now. There's vehicles in the States that allow you to hide behind things.
Yes.
Right?
Very
So
much so.
you can be in the Boy Scouts. Like as kids, you can be in sports, and white people treat you like a god.
yes.
So you never experience any of the things that regular Black people experience, as long as you kicking the football and running and doing all the things that you do.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you wanted to talk about the diaspora, because this is a specific experience to the diaspora, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I don't like to draw too many correlations between like New Zealand, Australia, and America. But when I was in Australia, I noticed how a lot of the Jim Crow things were actually, well, not even Jim Crow. It was a lot of the stuff that came from slavery as well, like how they catched Aboriginal people and stuff like that. They were actually the Aboriginal catchers. It was like their police force was set up on the same way that America was. And there's a lot of this, even though the colonization is really different, there's a lot of sharing of ideas that goes across the diaspora for controlling your peoples of color.
Yeah, there was no such thing as police prior to slavery.
Yes.
And when I say slavery, I mean chattel slavery.
Yeah.
So
I don't believe that in any indigenous community there's an idea of police.
No.
I haven't heard of it.
no. So police, because of course people would run. Of course people would run. And so then they had this band of sadists that would, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's true.
That would run around and like you don't want to get caught by them. You know, like you see Django Unchained gives you an idea. Those crazy rednecks that's running around with dogs and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
can barely talk. and all they want to do is torture and destroy black people.
There's another thing on Prime at the moment called the Underground Railroad.
Oh, yes.
I've just started watching that, and I was like, oh, because the picture looks so ancient. I thought that the movie itself was like made in 1930. So I was like, I don't want to watch. But when I turn it on, it's so up to date and shocking. Yeah. But at the same time, it really gives you an idea, I thought, of the PTSD that black people go through on a regular basis, everywhere, every day. You know, when you're having to live within these kind of controls.
And it's hard because, like, you come at it, you think you're like, as a kid, everything is normal. Whatever it was normal. So some part of you thinks you're above it till you start to crack.
That's right. So I was able to insulate myself from it until I was 16, and some things happened in school, and something, like this one little girl that I liked. It was like the fourth little girl, like all the black girls I was related to. Little girl that I liked was like, yeah, but you're a nigger. Am I? Yeah. I don't want to be. Can we just pretend I'm not? Because I'm trying to,
in
my head, I'm just a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Was she a little white girl?
She's a white girl.
Oh, okay.
So and then my mom, my mom being the woman that she is, she'd be like, well, if you can't go to their house, you don't bring them bitches to my house. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was like on Pocahontas moves out in the bushes and things. So it was like it was. So I had to confront it, which was really good. And that was around the time that I was listening, and then I started listening to the music. I started really getting into it. I started listening to KRS-One. I started listening to Public Enemy. At that time, everybody was pro-black. Ice Cube was pro-black. You know what I mean?
You think that kind of stream of hip hop, like with the Nation of Islam, but then the 5%ers as well. Like you sat there and just like that was just hip hop was just the greatest tool that they had. It was just like you use your KRS-Ones, you had your Rakims, you had all that kind of stuff that just go.
And it's a mandate. Each one teach one. It's a mandate of once you. This is the thing is once you grow up believing that you're one thing and you're told that you're one thing and then you see that you're so much more and so much further beyond that, then you want to shout it. You want to find – it's like what's his name said it in the Ali movie.
Will Smith?
Not Will Smith, but the dude who Mario Van Peebles, he played Malcolm X, and he said – when you find, he's like, you just want to find some piece of this, some piece that you can break and break it. You just want to. So that's what I did. I was in university, and I would go into the student unions, and I would turn off the TV, and I'd stand on the table, and we would be talking about, you guys want to watch Jerry Springer and all this bullshit, and our people are suffering. Like don't think like I was for real. Like it would be just me. And then later it was like 7. It got up to like 12 of us on campus, and we were just running shit. People were scared of us. Like we would go into the because the military aspect of it. We would go into the cafeteria and we would go in like together. We would sit together. They didn't know when we would get up and talk, and we would like, brother, what you eating? Like for real, brother, what you eating? Like I know, like, do you know what's in this? Do you know what's going? Attacking people, like I got into so many fights over pepperoni. Like, you know what I mean? Like Domino's Pizza Man would come up and we would be like, brother, what you eating? You know what I mean? How to eat to live. Let me just talk to you about what you need to be eating, because this man's trying to kill you and put you in the ground.
Come up to you and be
Christian,
like,
right?
What kind of shoes is those? How much your shoes?
Right, exactly. You're a Christian, right? Okay, well, let's get into Deuteronomy. It tells you what to eat, what not to eat. You ain't supposed to be touching this thing.
So what you're saying is that the Nation of Islam follows the Bible as well as the Quran? Because Deuteronomy is not in the Quran.
That's right.
So, is it like the history?
So what you need to understand is, so the main teaching tool of the Nation of Islam is the Bible. Right. You have to go into the Bible in order to get people out of the Bible. You have to go into it.
I see. Right? Okay.
So the Quran is there, but it's kind of secondary. Yeah, because our people aren't Muslims, our people are Christians.
Was it like and it's difficult because is it like Elijah Muhammad was was like a southern preacher. That's how he kind of started out. Was he kind of grew up within that kind of that southern?
Elijah
and
Muhammad grew up in
wasn't that southern tradition?
So Elijah Muhammad wasn't a preacher. He grew up. Well, everybody grew up Christian in the States, and then he went from there to Noble Drew Ali to the Moorish Science Temple. He went from there. He was also a follower of Garvey, and then he had his revelation. He met God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and that's when he got set on his mission. Yeah. And it was what it was until he met Malcolm X, and Malcolm X basically revolutionized the whole thing.
You know, one of my lecturers at UNC is like, I guess, was one of the foremost academics on the Nation of Islam, and that's the thing he was saying is that, like, in many ways, Elijah Muhammad wasn't the strongest orator. Like, he'd go on for hours, but then he had this talent for picking the people with the most amazing charisma. So he picked, like, you got Malcolm, you had Ali, Farrakhan. Like, he had that ability to pick those people who had. And that's part of the but anyway, to go back to what you were saying, so a lot of people don't actually, especially, and it's unfortunately in Christianity, don't understand the genealogy of Abrahamic religions, right? So they all come from the Old Testament in the Bible is nothing but the Torah, which is the Jewish holy book. So that they call it the Old Testament. It's not the Old Testament. That's not what it is. It's the Torah, minus about 6 to 9 books that they took out of it, right? Because it talks about witchcraft and women prophets and all these types of things. You can't have that in the Bible. That's not scripture. Spaceships and stuff like that. That's in the other books. That's not talked about. So then you got the gospel, which is,
Jesus' life.
Well, here's the thing: Jesus had 12 disciples. I think only 6 of them are represented in the New Testament. The rest of it is written by Paul. He never met Jesus. He actually contradicts a lot of what Jesus says.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like most, and I probably could argue about it, but I would call Christianity really the Paulinian theology. It's the idea and beliefs and setup of Paul,
right?
Who was once a Roman dude who used to execute Christians.
Oh.
He had a moment on the road and was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna do this thing." So
yeah. Sweet. I think we might jump to our first song. That's all good. And we'll pick up some more Nation of Islam theology afterwards.
Yes, please.
So the first track I got up today is Tomorrow Maybe by Z. Z is TJ Zimba. He's Dunedin-based artist. If you have seen him, you must have seen him. He's been on Pop Stars. So he's made it to the final 4 Pop Stars. I think the winner's being announced on Wednesday. So, like, just the Blackhouse, like, us dancers, we stand behind TJ. Like, if he don't win, like... But yeah,
100%.
This is Tomorrow Maybe. This is the show. This song he made for the show. So let's give it a listen.
I'm all alone with Jesus. I only got him and my last pair of Adidas. And my heart is out here bleeding. Hope it doesn't spill onto my favorite sneakers. I've been told by all of my friends to put my habits to an end, but I just keep focusing on things that are irrelevant. Yeah, I'm running out of patience like a doctor with no cases. Spend my time on changing just to always do the same thing. Waste my time and think about the things I did and wish I did them different, but I don't know, it is what it is. Round and round, going in circles. Keep jumping over all these hurdles. Yeah, I know that I should be careful. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm all alone. I'm all alone with Jesus. I only got him and my last pair of Adidas. And my heart is out here bleeding. Hope it doesn't spill onto my favorite sneakers. said I was gonna do. I didn't do them, they were stupid, that's my humble attitude. Yeah, clueless cause they piled up and I can't pick or choose. Do I just eat them and be careless? Sounds like a problem I should deal with pretty soon. Running from my problems, I know. Losing all my shit got me feeling like Joe. My colleague calculate vibes when I'm sitting home alone. Yeah, I'm home all alone. Yeah, I'm all alone with Jesus. I only got him and my left pair of Adidas. And my heart is out here moving on windows and spill onto my favorite sneakers.
And that was Z with Tomorrow Maybe. Okay, I'm going to hand this interviewing thing back to our friend Eddie here. Oh, we got some more songs.
I do like the fact that she says your name.
Eddie.
I love the angelic choir to go with your name.
Yeah, I was like, wow, it's divinely mandated my hosting of the show.
Yes, it's real.
Yes, yeah. So where do we can leave off? Like, was like, so you were talking about your college experience because again, like, that's one of those things that I feel like. So I'm what 23 now, but that's the thing. Like when I was in the States a couple of years back, and that was the thing for me. Where like I'd seen so much, like I'd heard so much kind of stuff about the Nation of Islam, and people coming out and doing that kind of, not preaching, I suppose, but that kind of like talking to people, and it's one of those things that I found like really fascinating. So like, so I guess like, what's from kind of uni, from college, what was the kind of journey went from there?
Well, there's a few seeds that got dropped when I was 17, 18. Well, 16. The first one was when I came to this awareness of blackness, I was also in a martial art called Shaolin.
Oh, hey. High
So
five.
my teacher was from Shaolin. And so when I was in university, I was going and study. He handed me over to a different teacher who was challenging everything about me in terms of my consciousness and things like that. And on top of the Nation of Islam stuff, I met my first, what I call my second benefactor. So my first benefactor was my martial arts teacher. My second one was this dude named Nasheed Fakhruddin. And he was in the Nation back in the day. Like, so he knew me. He was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He knew Malcolm. He knew Farrakhan. He was a minister there. So, like, he was pretty strong in the Nation back in the day, and he went in the Nation through its progression into the American Muslim movement or whatever it was then. And
so that was where
that's when
his son took over.
Wallace took over. Wallace-Uddin took over, and that was it is what it is. But I met him, and I always say, like, if anybody on a spiritual journey knows that a lot of times you get tricked into doing things, like you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it, but then all of a sudden it's like, I'm doing this thing that I know I shouldn't be doing, and I'm here for it. You know what I mean? So I went to he used to do these Black consciousness seminars, and he would talk about everything, everything. It was so, like, people would turn up, and it'd be packed, like 100 people. And, be like thugs there, be like, everybody would be in there listening to Nasheed. He was the man. And I went to his office, so I had this dream, I had a waking dream, right? So he did this, he talked about basically every time you play cards, you're playing, the cards is like a tarot deck, right? The card deck is a tarot deck. And when you play cards, you're actually playing with your destiny.
Yes.
It's telling you things that's going on, and you don't really know you don't know because you don't know the suits. So he's explaining the suits, and he's explaining the most powerful card in the deck is the King of Clubs because it's holding this 360-degree orb of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So when you draw that card, it means some stuff, So I'm having this dream. I fell asleep in my calculus class, and my head is on the desk, like lean, like fully. I was knocked out, and in the dream is one of my first waking memorable major dreams, waking dreams. And so there's these two kids on this plateau, and they're playing cards, and they're like, it's the king of clubs. And he goes, no, it's the king of spades, because king of spades is the king of death. So, no, it's king of clubs. No, it's king of spades. And so this card came around and came in front of me, and the imagery was so shocking that it woke me up from the dream. It blasted me. I was blasted out of the dream, eyes opened, face on the desk. I could see slobber. I could hear the teacher lecturer talking. I could see people moving beside me, but I could not move. I was frozen there for I don't know how long. And then I could hear the kids going, come back. You got to come back this way in order to get out. So I had to go back to sleep, woke up, jetted to Nasheed's office. And Nasheed was like, brother, you got to know this dude. He's dead now, but you got to know this. Brother, this really happened to you? I said, yeah. He goes, okay, sweet. So he goes, what I want you to do now is I want you to go to the bookstore and just walk around the bookstore and see what book calls you. Buy it and bring it back. So I'm walking through the bookstore, and I'm walking, because of Kung Fu, I see this bagua. It's 8 hexagrams. And I picked it up. It's the I Ching, Book of Changes.
Yes.
So I bought it, took it back to him. He goes, this is your book, brother? This is your book? I said, yeah. He goes, brother, you got a hard road ahead of you.
Oh, my God.
I said, what? So then he broke out his oracle. He's had these oracle cards. So he had a tarot deck, and he had these oracles called the Meduna Ter, which is this guy, Ra'u Nefer Amen, developed around the Ifa. But it's all Egyptian, rooted in Egypt. So he did this reading for me, and I was like, wow. He was like, yeah. He wrote it all down and gave it to me. I was like, wow, okay, sweet. He said, so what you going to do? Should I stay in the Nation of Islam? He goes, well, when the time is right, you'll know what to do. And so, me, knowing I don't like to be told anything, I would get the ministers from Louisville would be coming down, because I would be talking about the I Ching. I'd be talking about Meduna Ter. I'd be talking about all these things that I had learned, because we had this really beautiful group called the Black Consciousness Collective. And we were Muslims, Christians, atheists, engineers, poets, you name it. We were all in there, and we was all bouncing all these ideas off of each other, trying to find the similarities, trying to find that thing that was real, because we wanted to know what was real. And I would have these people come in from the Nation of Islam. What are you doing? This is all haram. This is all bad. You can't. You shouldn't even be touching this. You need to just stick with the message to the black man. You need to just stick with the Quran and the Bible, and don't even worry about that. And I was like, no, you can't open my mind and close it, bro. It's not gonna happen, And then I went to talk to Nasheed. He goes, bruh. He goes, they got thousands of people on the corner selling newspapers and selling bean pies. He's like, you could do that, but you could get your degree, and you could go on this journey and have something more to add to the story than just standing on the corner selling newspapers and bean pies. And so that's what I did. I stepped from the Nation from there, and went fully into Osero Set, which was Osero Set Society is it's part of Asante Hene, so they are recognized kingship of Asante Hene. So then that's when I started doing meditation and rituals and all that sort of stuff. And drumming.
Okay.
Drumming.
I just got one question before we jump onto that. Sorry, just because I'm curious about your university is because when I was at UNC, one of the big things that were present in terms of Black life on campus was your Black Greek letter organizations. And was that something kind of around?
We raged against them, bro. We raged against the Greek letter organizations, just mainly because it's another from our particular standpoint. Then it was just another form of abuse, another form of elitism, another why would you be Greek? Why would you be Greek? And because once you like we was talking about in the break, how the Greeks said when they went to Egypt that they learned stuff that the Egyptians, what we taught our kids, the Egyptians wouldn't even teach dogs. That's what Aristotle said. That's what Plato said. When they went to Egypt to learn, they went to the mystery schools to learn. They didn't learn there. Like you think about it, Greek was in the middle of the Peloponnesian Wars.
Yeah.
And so history today will tell you that the Greeks learned medicine and all these things from the Persians who they were fighting.
Yeah.
So
right.
So wait a minute. So we're gonna abandon. So just like America going, you know what? Let's go to the Taliban and see what they know. Let's go to Russia and just work out some stuff there. You know, the Russians got it going on. No, they went somewhere else. Where did the Greeks say that they went? The Greeks always say that they went to Egypt.
Because that has been like one of the big criticisms I have seen is that people saying like why Greek? Just if you're going to have those kind of organizations at all, surely root them in actual black and actual African organizations.
It's because of hopefully we got to digress a bit. So everybody's up in their arms about Black Captain America, right?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, Black Captain America. Da, 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 da. I'm like, what you need to understand is that there are a lot of Americans, Black Americans, who buy into the idea of America. You know, and all they want is to be treated equally. All they want is to be treated fairly, right? So there are a lot of people in the part of it. So the first thing you need to understand in terms of education is not education. Education is indoctrination. So they went to university and they weren't allowed to go to white universities. They had these letter organizations. They weren't allowed to go, right? So when they went to black universities, they started black letter organizations, just like the white people did, because this is what they did. So we're going to do it too, but we're going to do it like we're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's the reason why it's not. That's the reason why it's not African. Nothing African aside from things that can be commoditized is respected in America or in the West.
So the first of all, I wanted to know what was the Santi Sini. Because I am the
Asante Hene. So Asante Hene. So like you know Yoruba and Ifa.
Yeah.
So there's Yoruba, there's Ifa, there's Voodoo, and in Ghana it's called Asante Hene. So Osero Set Society is the first African American group, Black American group, to be acknowledged as priests and kings in Ghana.
Right. Okay.
So if you go through Osero Set Society and through the training and everything there, and you reach Shechem, or you reach whatever level, it is recognized. If you're a king there, you're recognized as a king in Asante Hene.
Okay. So do you think what Nanny was bringing up before about the Black Awakening?
Oh yes.
The Black Awakening and this. And are you talking specifically about African American?
Oh, as a member of the like when you're born on the continent, you know you're black. That's just that you start with that information. But when you're born outside of the continent, the people around you may and or may not be black, and that realization of what, like, or rather, a depth of understanding of what it means to be black is not something that just happens, or until it happens.
Yeah. Because I was wondering whether...
I just want to add to that.
Okay.
I was listening to Mark Lamont Hill's podcast the other day, and he had... I can't remember who he had. He had the sister on there, and he's basically saying that this whole idea, the reason why we have Black Awakenings is not because white people don't see color, it's that the only color they see is white.
Yes.
So in order to be part of it, you have to be it.
Yes.
And so then it's not until later, as long as you, as a kid, and you buy into it and you go through these things and you don't really get hit with it until you're 16, until you're 22, until you get pulled over.
Yeah.
You know, I always say, you want to know if you're black or not, get pulled over at 2 o'clock in the morning by the cops. They will let you know what color you are.
Yeah, because of the correlation I was trying to make there was, do you think with this Black Awakening or Black consciousness movement that's kind of re-happening again from when it happened back in the 60s, and the association with moving away from Western religions or Abrahamic religions back to our source religions, our African religions? Is this becoming a very popular sort of concept? Because I sort of see when people are starting to wake up, they're also moving, they're turning their attention to Africa.
It's very interesting. You know, when I talk about diaspora, I always also talk about the trap of diaspora, which is we tend to see it through our own eyes. So I remember riding in the car with a friend of mine from Ghana, and I was riding, and I was like, "Is this Christian music?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm a Christian." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "When?" Like, you drum and we pour libations, you do all these things. I didn't know you was a Christian. He was, yeah, I'm a Christian. And I don't actually like libations. And da-da-da, like he went in. And I was like,
Havana ship.
wow. And then, from there I went to like Nigeria Day. Bruh, you want to see, go to Nigeria Day or go to Ghana Day and you will see.
In Auckland?
In Auckland, and you will see Christianity on display.
150,
and I
70 degrees.
And I go there and I just go, I just want y'all to like.
We need to talk.
To do something, like. But it's fully a part of it, but I don't have when I was when I was his age and younger, I had I don't give a fuck enough to break it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I understand the importance of faith enough now, having lost mine a few times, to say, okay, you believe in something, I'm gonna leave you to it, whatever. Like I don't have the energy.
I know Tanzania is everybody has a religion. They that's basically part of their tikanga is you have to have a religion, and you're either I think it's about 60% Christian and about 30% Muslim, and then the rest is traditional religions, which. You don't go around admitting, but my grandmother was one, which is really cool. I like saying that, and everybody was scared of her. So
Well, that's it. That's one of the things I find really interesting is that like Christians are scared of spiritual people. They are. They are. It's like, well, why are you? Like your God is supposed to be like the best, right? So why are you scared of me? Like I'm just pouring water on the ground. And you're scared. Who you think I'm gonna call down? You think I might call God? I don't know. They get really weirded out.
I do think that there's something to be said for the way that in Christianity there is such a focus, or not even Christianity in the sense of, as you say, the Bible, but as sort of in culture of Christianity, there's this huge pop culture presence of the devil who will lead you astray. And it builds a sort of paranoia within that culture that which, you don't really have a clean sense of what the devil is, because you're specifically told he's going to come in white robes, right?
So here we're going to have a lightning moment right here. I always encourage people to watch Lucifer on Netflix because this starts to begin to break the idea of what the devil is. The Egyptians said that Set, so there's Anpu, there's Apwat, so there's the opener and closer of the way and the guide to the afterlife, and then there's Set. And Set is your intellect in service to your low desires.
Yes.
Right? They called it the beast.
Yes.
Right? They were very specific about the devil, very specific. The Genesis is very specific about who was in the garden. Right? It doesn't say the beast was in the garden. It says the serpent was in the garden.
Yes.
And that's different. The serpent is different from the beast.
Yes.
Right? And we need to understand that. The Gnostics, who were the ones that they were feeding to the lion's den after Jesus left, they believed that the only person that told the truth in the Garden of Eden was the serpent. God said, if you eat this, you'll die. That wasn't true. Adam said he didn't eat it. That wasn't true. Eve said she didn't tell him to. Nobody told the truth. The serpent was the only thing that told the truth. And they believe that there's this celestial war between the Tetragrammaton, YHWH, which they believe is a demon, and the serpent. So if you look at most indigenous religions, the main I suppose deity or whatever of that would have some kind of serpent energy.
Yeah, they have one in. I know the one in Australia. They've got the snake that goes through.
So the serpent energy is the energy of the earth. And what does the YHWH tell Adam to do? Go forth, replenish the earth, and subdue it. What? Why gotta do that? Why I gotta subdue the earth? The earth gives me everything I know. Go forth, replenish the earth, and subdue it. Why am I replenishing it when I just started it? That's another question. Anyway, so yes, I'm in terms of the lightning moment is that the devil that we think is not It's not the devil that is, right? So there's a faculty we call Apuat, we call Sebek, we call him Elegba, the trickster.
Yes.
Yeah,
Anansi.
the trickster.
Yes, Anansi.
Right. And the reason why that's there is because you cannot afford somebody who is spiritually stupid to have spiritual power.
Yes.
Right? So there's a faculty there that is going to trick you, it's going to fool you, it's going to stop you from getting this power. You have to come straight.
Yes.
You have to spend 40 days and 40 nights in the desert.
Yes.
And then when it comes to you and offering you some water, you got to say no.
Yes.
Now, who can do that? I would be a drinking fool. You know what I mean? You've got to have, that is spiritual power.
Yes.
You have to have it. And that thing won't be able to trick you.
Yes.
And that's why they call it the opener. The Egyptians called him Apuat, the opener and the closer of the way. Right? But we think in our ego mindset, oh, I can't have this. Oh, I got tricked. Oh, blah, blah. This must be the devil. It's not the devil.
No.
The devil, this thing is stopping you in your spiritual ignorance from actually having spiritual power. Because if you get spiritual power, don't tell them what you'll do.
Yes. That's actually a really beautiful way of phrasing that whole thing. That has been a journey that I've also been taking quite recently. And one, like, I literally was up till like 2 a.m. with a friend talking about the spider god Anansi. And so you bring that up here. Not to mention the fact that the book on my desk right now is an I Ching book. And Shaolin martial arts was the one that I studied as a young girl.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of parallels here. So I'm like really feeling like in terms of the holy divine song for Eddie and the conversation, I do actually feel like we are in the room having the right conversation. Like we are a people who have been, oppressed and dislocated and, flung to the four corners of the planet, right down to here to New Zealand. So what we're all asking is, what is the way? What is the way? Like we have been told so many things, and especially post-COVID, we have been given a moment to reflect, and we need each other, and we see that, but we push each other away for exactly as you say, like being in service to our lowest selves, and we want to manifest that collective power, but we don't want to do it so that we can use it to destroy ourselves.
Yeah, I think my goal in this part of my life is to turn it over to the sisters. I think as we have, there's plenty of examples of it down here.
Far too many.
There's plenty of examples of it in Auckland. And I just think that I think it needs to be turned over. You can't corrupt.
No.
Like you can corrupt. You can corrupt an 80-year-old man with 30-year-old pussy, but you can't corrupt the 80-year-old woman with nothing. You can't. What are you gonna give her? Like, look here, boy. I didn't see. I can tell by the way you walked up here. This shit ain't gonna work. Just get on with that.
Exactly.
Go on,
because I've got a 12-year-old girl, man, and I want her to have those examples of women with power, and I want her to be one of those. And I know that the only way to do that is to support women that are doing that. So that's my thing.
That's funny because I have this thing that I say, which is like one thing I want for my daughter, who's 7. The thing I want for her, I want her to grow up and have the capacity to be a bimbo and be safe. Like I want her to live in a world where she doesn't have to stress about shit like I had to stress about shit, like my grandma had to stress about shit. I want her to be able to have her clique. I want her to be an 80-year-old woman with a clique of like squabbling hens. Yeah. And I want them to have a good time till the end of it, right? Like that's, if I had one goal, it would be to allow her to go through life a bit of an airhead. Like, actually.
My goal is for her to not be an airhead. Like, can you just not be a dumbass, please?
But you see what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
As a black woman, we are, so much is asked of us, and so much, we are basically tasked with saving the world, where a black man's going to take credit for it and a white man's going to steal his idea, and then a rich white man's going to say, like, tell everybody, write the history book on it. And I don't want that for her. I want her to be able to go through life in peace. And I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's. I'm not God. I can't accomplish but so much. But it would be my goal to let her live a peaceful life. and to see the generation, especially of women underneath us, not to need to go through this shit.
Okay, we got 8 minutes. So where are we taking this, guys?
I was like, okay, let's put this over. Like, should we go another tune or like keep yarning?
Yeah.
Or like,
I was going to talk about so I got up to the point of drumming. So my drumming came from a ritualistic experience, going through rituals, all night rituals, 3-day rituals and stuff of drumming, Native American rituals, drumming. So. And the idea of Black Sunday is we're just a group of guys that we don't follow rhythms, like we will have, one basic rhythm and then from there we on the spot make it up.
Nice.
So every time you see us, we haven't been going, okay, we're going to practice this,
It's just all kind of freeform.
Exactly. So we go. I mean, we just did a thing with Mazbouk a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't. None of us.
Mezboku?
Yeah.
You call him Mezbouk?
Mazbouk. I don't know. I thought him huge. You seen him? He's big.
Mazbouk.
We just did a thing with him, and it was totally like we just right then, right there. What's the energy? What's going on? Let's do it. And I think that's. That there's something I always come away from those experiences feeling like I've created something like that was just unique to this particular place. And I'll go back and I'll do my own practicing at home. But when we get together, it's just all there.
How long have you been doing that? And do you tour?
Yes, well, we've been Black Sunday's been in effect for about 4 years. I've been drumming since I was 23, but not like just basic techniques. It wasn't until we had the group was like 8, and then we had a breakup because of diaspora.
It just is.
The black politics walked into the room and was like, hello.
I'm going to say it. There's a lot of people over here that are kids of kings and chiefs and all that sort of stuff. And they get talked to a certain way on the continent, and they ain't used to being called like, what the fuck you doing, bro?
Yeah, no, they're not used to that.
Like, you don't talk to me that way.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
They're not used to that, and that's just me not. And to be fair, I didn't understand that was what was happening in the group. I was just bringing.
But there's also sometimes this sense of being Tanzanian and having spent half my life around Africans here.
Yeah.
And then living in Tanzania for a period of time, there is this kind of, I do notice it particularly in Wellington. I don't know about other places. I never really noticed it. But I mean, the way I look at it is that if young people don't want my children to speak to their parents in a particular way, then they should know how to speak to me.
Yes.
Simple as that. Yeah.
Well, I think that seems to be like, I guess probably one of the ongoing, I guess not struggles, and probably the most ongoing thing that between Africa and the continental Africa and the diaspora is that those kind of perceptions of, and I don't know, especially from the Caribbean and the US, especially like of that idea of lacking culture or lacking kind of class or man, all that sort of thing, and that seems to be like the ongoing,
I do
ongoing
like class.
battle.
I'm a country boy. You know what I mean? I grew up country, I grew up people hooping and hollering, playing cards, falling to Christmas trees. We was wild, and that's all right. I think there's got to be room and space for everybody to, as you say, like what you want for your child is to be themselves.
Yes.
And that's the best. I think that's the best you can want for your children. I mean, I've always wanted the same as you, that like they do what they love.
Yes.
And if you can make money from doing what you love, all the better. You've won it.
Yes.
You've won the prize. You don't have to go out there and do the crappy jobs.
Yes.
And
I think that there's a certain amount of, and I think this conversation's a really good one, because there's a certain amount of expectations and religious ceremony that I do think is missing within we as the diaspora. I think that it was specifically removed from us, and then we have been had it replaced by something that does not suit us. And I think that as our kids grow older, I would love to be able to not, when I say a bimbo, I don't mean in the sense of her to be stupid. I mean in the sense of her to be lighthearted and to have a strong sense of certainty about the things that are important enough so that she can be relaxed about the things she knows that
I mean, to be honest, I would like to be a bimbo, but nobody would take me seriously.
Yes.
I could go in there like, I'm a bimbo, I don't know anything, I'm just blonde.
Look, I'm just here. y'all, I'm just here, happy to be
couldn't do
here.
that. As soon as somebody asks you one silly question, you'd be like, "Oh no, see, because."
Right?
And it'd be a
here we
long
go.
ass response.
Right? Like, give me that black woman who can let it go, right? Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, give me the black woman who can just let it go.
I've tried, but the
I
people
know.
haven't let me.
I know. Oh my God. Like, it's so hard. You're out there and you're trying to be like, somebody says something stupid and you breathe in and breathe out. And you're like, I'm higher than this. Ross, speak to me. But to get the ability to let it go, because what's important is in check. Because what's real, what's religiously real, spiritually real, and our needs are being met on that level.
Before we've only got 2 minutes to go.
Baby.
So I'm going to do a real quick shout out. If people are... Now let me see.
Hang on.
You can do it?
Yeah,
You can do it?
Yeah, so if you got anything on no, so obviously wrapping up the show, but tonight, if you didn't know already, we've got the 50 Shades of Nude party, which is an Afrobeats dance hall night put on by Rebecca Williams. She's kind of booked out Wildfire on, was it Torrey Street, I want to say? Yeah. 60 Torrey Street. It'll be a great night. Like, it's in theme, so you got to kind of rock up with like something cream or like brown or beige or whatever.
Nude.
Yeah, nude. That's,
What if I'm black and I'm wearing black? Does that count?
There you go.
oh, yeah, that's
Where the back girl
yeah,
shirt.
that's what I was thinking. I was like, yo, like, can I just get like a string vest and just be like,
Yes.
There you go.
So, but
Get
yeah, so
yourself
that's
a mankini and walk in.
Yeah.
yeah. So that's on tonight from about I want to say like 9:30 or whatever. So yeah, it's like door sales. So rock up. It'll be a great night and it'll be wild. So show up.
Yes.
Okay, and I would also like to thank Fellis for coming in finally.
yes.
We've been trying to get you in here for ages.
Thank you.
And please come back again.
I'll be back in a
just to
couple of
fill up
months.
space. Come back and co-host with him and this one here.
Yeah.
And we'll interrogate somebody else.
We will talk religion. We will talk fried chicken. It will be good.
Oh yes, we didn't even get on the chicken.
Yeah.
We got a minute. Let's talk about chicken for a minute.
Y'all, that's real.
The chicken, you gotta get your buttermilk batter.
Oh, yes.
You gotta master buttermilk.
That's true.
Buttermilk batter.
Best let's just break it down. Best chicken place in like New Zealand. Like
No such thing.
No such
I
thing.
don't understand the question. I don't understand the question.
My house.
My house, exactly. Your house?
My house.
My house.
My house. Y'all
Actually,
want some fried chicken?
When I'm back in 2 months, I want to see you.
Oh, yes.
I want to see you.
You need to go to Fellis's
Get that
mate
proper-
Cleo's for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yes.
These
Ooh.
guys put on a huge feed.
We do it.
That's the
It's
one.
Black Thanksgiving. We do the whole thing.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Right.
that's it from us.
yes, that's coming down to the
All
end of the
right.
Blackhouse. It's been Eddie, Nanny, Leah, and Fellis MaGuire. Peace
Yep.
out.
Peace out.
Peace out. See you
Love.
next week.
That program was brought to you by Wellington Access Radio. Get your voice heard.
Thanks New Zealand On Air for funding accessmedia.nz.